The bullet tore through Lieutenant Morrison's throat before anyone heard the shot. Blood sprayed across the dashboard, and as his body slumped forward, dead weight against the steering wheel. The convoy lurched sideways, tires screaming against gravel. In the back seat, Private Jensen watched Morrison's fingers twitch once, twice, then go still. The radio crackled with static and screaming. Contact, contact, right. Another shot punched through the windshield. Glass exploded inward like frozen rain. The truck behind them erupted in flames, black smoke billowing into the Afghan sky. Men were shouting, dying, bleeding out in the dirt, while the enemy snipers picked them apart from positions no one could see. And in the communications truck surrounded by equipment that was supposed to keep everyone safe, Kira. Ashford pressed her hands flat against her thighs and made herself breathe, made herself not see what she was seeing, made herself not know what she knew. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the end. Comment which city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The explosion hit at 0700 hours, exactly when Chief Petty Officer Nathan Kane said it wouldn't. Kira felt it before she heard it, a percussion wave that rattled her teeth and turned her stomach inside out. The lead Humvee lifted off the ground like God himself had kicked it, flipped once, twice, and came down on its roof in a screaming crunch of metal and human bodies. She watched through the bulletproof glass of the comms truck as the gunner, a kid named Ramirez, who'd shown her pictures of his newborn daughter just that morning, tumbled through the air like a rag doll. He didn't get up. IED, IED, someone screamed over the radio, voice cracking with panic and youth. We've got casualties, we've got... The transmission cut off. Then the shooting started. Kira's hands moved on autopilot, fingers dancing across the radio controls, switching frequencies, trying to raise everyone. Her driver, Corporal Stevens, was already throwing the truck into reverse, but there was nowhere to go. The convoy had been funneled into a narrow valley, rocky walls rising on both sides like the rib cage of some massive beast that had swallowed them whole. Classic ambush terrain. Her father would have spotted it a mile out. But her father was dead, had been dead for 8 years, and Kira had promised herself she'd never think like him again. Liberty Base, this is Echo 2-3. We are under heavy fire. I repeat, heavy fire. She kept her voice level, professional, even as another explosion rocked the convoy. Multiple casualties, requesting immediate air support and medevac over. Static answered her. Then a voice tinny and distant. Echo 2-3, Liberty Base, copies, be advised, air support is 40 minutes out. Hold your position, over. 40 minutes. 40 minutes might as well be 40 years. Through the windshield, she watched Chief Kane's truck screech to a halt. The back doors flew open and seals poured out like water from a broken dam, taking cover behind the disabled vehicles, returning fire at an enemy they couldn't see. Kane was shouting orders, his voice cutting through the chaos with the kind of authority that made young men run toward danger instead of away from it. Kira had served with Kane for 6 months. 6 months of him treating her like furniture with a radio, calling her comms instead of her name, asking her to fetch coffee like she was some sort of glorified secretary with a security clearance. The SEALs didn't respect the support staff. Why would they? They were the tip of the spear, the door kickers, the real warriors. People like Kira just kept the equipment running. That's what she'd wanted. That's what she'd worked for. Anonymity, invisibility. Another shot cracked across the valley. She saw Petty Officer Davis spin sideways, saw the red mist, saw him go down, clutching his shoulder. 2 SEALs dragged him behind a boulder, while the others laid down, suppressing fire, but their shots were wild, undisciplined, hitting nothing but rocks and sky. They couldn't see the enemy, but Kira could. Her eyes, trained since childhood to read terrain, like other people read books, tracked the muzzle flashes automatically. Ridgeline, 11 o'clock, approximately 800 meters. 2 shooters, maybe 3, using the rock formations for cover. Another position at 2 o'clock, closer, maybe 600 meters. That one had elevation advantage, could see down into the convoy's defensive positions. She counted 6 enemy positions in total, professional placement, overlapping fields of fire. Whoever planned this knew exactly what they were doing. Stevens, she said quietly, how's our 6? The corporal's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Clear for now, but a bullet punched through the passenger side mirror, showering them with glass and plastic. Stevens yelped and ducked. Kira didn't move, just tracked the shot back to its origin. Ridgeline, 9 o'clock, 700 meters, give or take. Make that 7 positions. Specialist Ashford, Kane's voice exploded from the radio. I need a clear channel to Liberty Base now. We need air support, and I need it 5 minutes ago. She switched frequencies, tried again. Still nothing but static and the occasional broken transmission from other units scattered across the province. The enemy was jamming them, or the terrain was, or both. It didn't matter. Help wasn't coming. "Chief, I can't get through," she transmitted back. "Something's blocking." "Then unblock it," Kane roared. "That's your job, isn't it? Do your damn job." Kira's jaw tightened. She started cycling through backup frequencies, trying to find anything that would punch through, but she already knew it was useless. The valley walls were too high, the jammers too effective. They were cut off, pinned down, and dying by inches. Another SEAL went down. Then another. Through the scope of her binoculars, she watched Chief Kane's sniper, a lanky Texan named Cooper, trying to acquire targets. He'd set up behind the engine block of the overturned Humvee rifle propped on a makeshift rest eye pressed to his scope. But every time he lined up a shot, incoming fire forced him back down. He couldn't see them, couldn't get a clear angle. Kira's hands were shaking. She pressed them against her thighs again, harder, this time hard enough to hurt. Her father's voice echoed in her head, calm and patient. "Breathe, baby girl. Slow your heart rate. Fear makes you miss. Calm makes you deadly." No, she wasn't going there. She'd made a promise. "Ashford," Kane again, desperate now. "Talk to me, what have we got?" She keyed the mic. "Still trying, Chief. The signals? Movement on the ridge." One of the enemy snipers was repositioning, moving to a new vantage point that would give him a clear line of sight on Kane's position. Kira watched him settle in, watched him acquire his target, watched him prepare to kill the man who treated her like dirt for half a year, but who was still her commanding officer, still her responsibility. She grabbed her headset. "Chief, you've got a shooter on your 6th ridge line, 10 o'clock. He's got you in his sights. Move now." "What? How do you move?" Kane rolled left, just as the bullet cracked past his head, so close it must have parted his hair. He came up, swearing eyes scanning the ridge, but even knowing where to look, he couldn't spot the shooter. The enemy was too well concealed, too professional. But Kira could see him, could see the slight shimmer of his scope lens catching the morning sun, could see the way the rocks around his position were arranged natural cover with just enough of a gap for a rifle barrel, could see everything her father had taught her to see all those years ago in the mountains of Montana when she'd been too young to understand what he was really training her for. Cooper Kane was shouting at his sniper. 10 o'clock, 800 meters, take him out." Cooper swung his rifle around, peered through his scope. "I don't see him, Chief. I don't have a shot. He's right there. I can't see him." The enemy sniper fired again. The bullet hit Petty Officer Martinez in the leg, spinning him around like a top. He went down screaming, clutching at the wound, blood pumping between his fingers. The unit medic, Doc Henderson, scrambled toward him, but incoming fire kicked up dust all around them, forcing everyone to keep their heads down. Kira's fingers were white against her thighs. Her heart was hammering against her ribs so hard she thought they might crack. She could hear her mother's voice now, desperate and broken. "Promise me. Promise me you'll never pick up a rifle again. Promise me I won't lose you the way I lost him." She'd promised. She'd meant it. But that was before she watched good men die for lack of someone who could see what she could see. "Ashford, tell me you've got something." Kane's voice had lost its edge of command, had shifted into something rawer. Plea, not order. "Anything." She looked at her radio equipment, looked at the SEALs dying in the dirt, looked at the enemy positions that were invisible to everyone but her, looked at the rifle case locked under her seat. No one was supposed to know it was there. She'd smuggled it onto the base in pieces, reassembled it in secret, told herself it was just a keepsake, a memorial to her father. She'd never intended to use it, never intended to break her promise, but she'd also never intended to watch good people die when she could do something about it. Her hand stopped shaking. "Chief," she said into the radio, her voice suddenly calm, "I need you to trust me. What Ashford, this isn't the time for. Do you trust me?" A pause. In the background, she could hear gunfire, screaming, the wet sounds of men dying. Then, "What choice do I have?" "Keep them busy. Make noise. I need 30 seconds." She didn't wait for his response. She reached under her seat, pulled out the locked case, punched in the combination her fingers remembered even though her brain had tried to forget. The case opened with a soft click that sounded like a door closing on her old life. Inside was her father's rifle. A Remington 700 custom, built the stock worn smooth by his hands and then by hers during all those summers in Montana. She'd been 12 when he'd first let her fire it, 14 when she'd started outperforming the adults at the range, 16 when she'd realized she had a gift, the same gift that had made her father legendary in the Ranger Regiment. 17 when an IED in Kandahar had made her motherless and had forced her to promise never to use that gift again. Kira assembled the rifle with movements so practiced they were meditative. Stock, barrel, scope, magazine. Each piece clicked into place like it had been waiting for this moment. "Ashford, what the hell are you doing?" Stevens was staring at her like she'd sprouted a second head. "Your comms, you're not supposed to." "Open the door," she said quietly. "What?" "Open the door." He did. Maybe it was the tone of her voice, or maybe it was the look in her eyes, but he popped the rear door without another word. The sound of the firefight hit her like a physical force. Bullets cracking overhead, men shouting, the dull thump of grenades, the screams of the wounded. The air smelled like cordite and blood and burning rubber. Kira stepped out of the truck. The terrain opened up in her like a three-dimensional map. Every rock, every shadow, every angle of fire. She'd been suppressing this part of her brain for 8 years, forcing herself not to see what she saw, but now she let it come flooding back. Enemy position 1 ridge line, 11 o'clock, 812 meters, 2 shooters using a natural rock formation for cover. Wind 3 to 5 miles per hour left to right. Temperature already climbing would affect trajectory at this distance. Humidity low, barometric pressure high. She dropped prone behind a boulder, settling the rifle against her shoulder, like greeting an old friend. Through the scope, the world narrowed to crystal clarity. She could see the first shooter's position, now could see the slight movement that betrayed his location. He was good, she'd give him that. Professional, disciplined, but her father had been better, and he'd taught her everything he knew. Kira's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. The chaos around her faded to white noise. She calculated the shot. Distance, wind, elevation. The way her father had taught her, the way she'd practiced 10,000 times before she tried to forget. Then she squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched the enemy shooter jerk backward, watched him tumble from his position. Dead before he knew what hit him. His partner popped up confused, scanning for the threat. Bad decision. Kira's second shot took him in the chest. He dropped without a sound. She shifted aim. Position 2 o'clock, 640 meters. These shooters had heard the shots, now were trying to locate her, but they were looking in the wrong direction. They thought the fire was coming from the Sill's position. Mistake. Third shot, fourth shot, 2 more targets down. "What the?" Kane's voice over the radio shocked. "Who's shooting? Who the hell is shooting?" Kira didn't answer. She was already moving, relocating before the remaining enemy could triangulate her position. Her father's first rule, never stay in one place. Take your shots and move, always move. Position 3, 500 meters. One shooter, but he'd realized something was wrong. He was trying to pull back to retreat to better cover. She didn't let him. Fifth shot. The enemy fire had slackened, now confusion spreading through their ranks. They'd had complete control of the battlefield 10 seconds ago. Now their people were dying, and they didn't know why. Kira found position 4. The sniper here was smart, had gone completely to ground, wasn't showing so much as an inch of himself. But Kira knew where he had to be. There were only 3 rocks in that formation large enough to provide adequate cover, and only one of them had the right angle for a shot at the convoy. She put a bullet through the gap between 2 boulders, heard a scream, 6th target. Position 5 was already abandoning his post, running for better cover. She tracked him through the scope, led him by just a hair, and fired. He went down hard. 7. The valley had gone quiet except for the moaning of the wounded and the ringing in Kira's ears. She kept her eye to the scope, searching for the last 2 positions, but they'd gone dark. Either they were extremely well concealed, or they'd done the smart thing and retreated. She waited, counted her heartbeats. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger, ready. There. Movement on the far ridge. Just a shadow, just a suggestion, but enough. She adjusted her aim, compensated for the distance. 900 meters, her longest shot of the day, and fired. The shadow didn't move again. 8. One more. There was always one more. Kira scanned the ridgeline, methodical, patient. Her father's voice in her head. Don't rush. The patient hunter eats. The impatient hunter starves. A glint of metal. There. Trying to use the sun's angle to blind her scope. Professional trick. Didn't work if you knew to look for it. 9th shot. Then she saw the last one. He'd done everything right, had perfect concealment, perfect discipline. But he'd made one tiny mistake. His boot was visible, just the heel sticking out from behind a rock formation at 1,000 meters. It was a hell of a shot. Wind had picked up. The angle was terrible. 1,000 variables could throw it off. Kira took a breath, held it, let her body settle into that perfect stillness her father had called the quiet place. Squeezed. Through the scope, she saw the boot jerk, saw the body roll out from behind the rock, tumbling down the slope. 10 targets, 18 minutes from when she'd first picked up the rifle. Kira stayed in position, waiting, but no more fire came. The ambush was over. She became aware of the silence first, then the staring. Every SEAL in the convoy was looking at her. Stevens was standing beside the comms truck, mouth open. Doc Henderson had stopped bandaging Martinez's leg and was staring like he'd never seen her before. And Chief Kane was walking toward her, his face unreadable. Kira slowly lowered the rifle, her hands starting to shake again, now that the adrenaline was fading. She'd broken her promise. After 8 years of keeping it, of denying who she was and what she could do, she'd broken it. And she didn't know if she felt relieved or terrified. Kane stopped 3 feet away from her. His eyes went to the rifle, then to the ridgelines, then back to her face. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Who the hell are you?" Kira met his gaze. Her voice was steady despite everything. "Specialist Kira Ashford. Communications." "Bullshit." Kane's jaw was tight. "Comm specialists don't shoot like that. Nobody shoots like that. I've got Cooper over there, and he's one of the best snipers in the teams, and he couldn't see half those targets, let alone hit them." She didn't answer. Didn't know what to say. Kane took a step closer, and she saw something new in his eyes. Not anger, not confusion, respect. "Who taught you?" he asked quietly. The question hit her like a fist to the gut. She looked down at the rifle in her hands, at the worn stock that still bore the faint scratches from when she dropped it climbing a mountain trail in Montana. She was 12. Her father had laughed, had told her guns were tools, not treasures, and a few scratches just meant they were being used right. "My father," she said finally, "Staff Sergeant Marcus Ashford. Ranger Regiment. He was..." Her voice caught. "He was one of the best." Understanding dawned on Kane's face. "Ashford? Marcus Ashford. Jesus Christ, you're Warhawk's daughter." She flinched at the call sign. Warhawk. That's what they'd called her father in the regiment. The legend who'd racked up more confirmed kills than anyone wanted to count, who could shoot the wings off a fly at 1,000 meters, who'd turned down a commission 3 times because he'd rather be in the field than behind a desk, who died when an IED hit his convoy on a dusty road outside Kandahar. "I didn't know he had a daughter," Kane said. "He didn't talk about me much. Operational security." She paused, and I asked him not to. I didn't want to be the sniper's kid. I just wanted to be normal. "Normal?" Kane laughed short and sharp. "Specialist, what you just did was a lot of things, but normal isn't one of them." He looked back at his team, at the wounded being tended to, at the dead being covered with ponchos. "You saved us. You know that, right? Without you, we'd all be dead." Kira didn't feel like a hero. She felt like she'd stepped off a cliff and was still waiting to hit the ground. Cooper jogged over, rifle slung across his back. He looked at Kira, then at her rifle, then at the ridgelines. "Ma'am, I mean specialist, I just have one question." "Okay. Can you teach me how you did that? Because I've been doing this for 6 years and I couldn't make half those shots." Before Kira could answer, the radio in the comms truck crackled to life. "Echo 2-3, Liberty Base. We have air support inbound, ETA 20 minutes. What is your status over?" 20 minutes. The help they'd needed 40 minutes ago was 20 minutes out. Kira walked to the truck, keyed the mic. "Liberty Base Echo 2-3, threat neutralized. I repeat, threat neutralized. We have multiple wounded in KIA. Requesting immediate medevac over." A pause, then, "Echo 2-3, did you say threat neutralized?" "Affirmative, 10 enemy combatants down. Area is secure." "Echo 2-3, please confirm, did you neutralize 10 targets with air support?" Kira looked at Kane. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. She looked at Cooper, at Stevens, at all the SEALs who were staring at her like she'd just walked out of a myth. "Negative, Liberty Base," she said quietly. "Ground forces eliminated the threat." She didn't mention it was one person. She didn't mention it was the comm specialist they'd all dismissed as non-essential personnel. She definitely didn't mention that she'd just broken an 8-year-old promise and didn't know how she was going to tame away with that. But as she watched the medevac birds appear on the horizon, as she listened to Doc Henderson call out that Martinez was going to make it, as she saw the relief on the faces of men who'd been certain they were going to die today, she thought maybe her mother would understand. Maybe. The medevac bird's rotors were still beating the air when Kane pulled Kira aside, his grip firm enough to leave marks. "We need to talk." Now. She let him lead her away from the others, away from the wounded being loaded onto stretchers, away from Cooper, who kept looking at her like she'd descended from the clouds on a beam of light. Her rifle was still in her hands. She hadn't been able to let go of it. Kane stopped behind the comms truck out of earshot. His face was hard. I need to know exactly what I've got here, Ashford, and I need the truth. I told you the truth. My father was... I don't give a damn about your father right now. Kane's voice dropped low, dangerous. What I care about is that I've had a world-class sniper sitting in my convoy for 6 months and nobody told me. Not command, not intel, nobody. Kira's stomach twisted. That's because nobody knew. How the hell does nobody know? Because I didn't want them to know. She met his eyes, refusing to look away. I enlisted as communications. That's what I trained for. That's what I do. Kane stared at her like she'd just admitted to being a Martian. You're telling me you can shoot like that, and you chose to be comms. That's insane. It's what my mother needed. Your mother, Kane's jaw worked. Let me guess. She made you promise never to pick up a rifle after your dad died. The accuracy of it hit Kira like a slap. She didn't answer. Kane ran a hand over his face, suddenly looking exhausted. Christ, Ashford, do you have any idea what you just did out there? Those weren't lucky shots. That was precision work, professional level. Better than professional. I did what I had to do. You saved 15 lives. Probably more. He paused. And you broke whatever promise you made to do it. That's not nothing. Kira's hands tightened on the rifle. The stock was warm from her grip, familiar in a way that made her chest ache. I know what I did. Good, because I'm about to ask you to do it again. Her head snapped up. What? Kane pulled out a satellite phone, checked the screen, then looked back at her. That ambush wasn't random. It was too well coordinated. Professional snipers, perfect positioning, military-grade equipment. Someone planned this specifically to take out a SEAL convoy. Taliban have professional fighters. Not like that, Kane's voice was grim. I've been in country for 3 tours. I know the difference between local fighters and foreign operators. Those were trained snipers, Ashford. Probably Chechen or Pakistani. And they knew our route, our timing, everything. The implications settled over Kira like ice water. You think there's a leak. I think we've got a serious problem, and right now you're the only asset I have who can counter it. Kane stepped closer. I need to report what happened here. Command is going to want to know how we survived. When they find out about you... No, the word came out harder than she intended. Chief, please, you can't tell them. I have to. You just took out 10 enemy combatants. That's not something I can sweep under the rug. Then tell them it was Cooper. Tell them he made the shots. Kane's eyes narrowed. You want me to lie in my after-action report. I want you to let me do my job without turning me into something I'm not. Kira's voice cracked slightly. I made a promise to my mother. Today I broke it because people were dying. But if command finds out what I can do, they'll reassign me. They'll put me in a sniper unit. And I can't. I promised her I wouldn't. Your mother isn't here, specialist. The words hit like a physical blow. Kira stepped back, feeling tears burn behind her eyes. You don't understand. Then make me understand. She wanted to explain how her mother had fallen apart after the notification officers came to their door. How she'd found her in the garage 3 months later, car running, door closed. How Kira had gotten there just in time, had dragged her out, had held her while she sobbed and begged Kira to promise, please promise that she wouldn't follow her father into the ground. But the words wouldn't come. They never did. Kane's expression softened slightly. Look, I get it. You made a promise. But that was before today. Before you proved you can save lives with that skill. How many more people have to, while you hide what you can do? That's not fair. War isn't fair, specialist. It's just necessary. He pulled out the sat phone again. I'm calling this in. What you do after that is your choice. But I won't lie about what happened here. He turned away, started dialing. Kira stood there, her father's rifle heavy in her hands, and felt the last 8 years of her life crumbling like sand. Then Stephen shouted from the convoy, Chief, we've got movement on the ridge. Everyone froze. Kane dropped the phone weapon coming up. Cooper was already scrambling for his rifle. The other SEALs took defensive positions, but Kira could see the fear in their movements. They just survived one ambush. Nobody wanted to go through another. Kira brought her rifle up, eye to the scope. She scanned the ridgeline where Stevens was pointing. For a long moment, she saw nothing. Then there, a figure moving slowly, carefully. Not advancing, retreating. Contact, Kane hissed. One person, Kira said quietly, tracking the figure through her scope, moving away from us. Looks like she adjusted focus. It's one of the shooters from the ambush. He's wounded, dragging his left leg. Kane looked at Cooper. You see him. Cooper peered through his own scope, then shook his head. Negative, Chief, I don't have eyes on. He's there, Kira said. 800 meters moving toward that cluster of rocks at 10 o'clock. Kane grabbed the sat phone again, but his eyes stayed on Kira. Can you take him? The question hung in the air. Everyone was watching her now. Stevens, Cooper, Doc Henderson, all the SEALs who dismissed her as just another support troop. They were watching her decide who she was going to be. Kira settled the crosshairs on the retreating figure. Easy shot. Wounded target moving slowly. She could see the dark stain on his leg where her earlier shot had caught him. He was struggling, probably in shock, definitely in pain. Her finger rested on the trigger. Ashford, Kane prompted. She thought about her promise. Thought about her mother sitting in their living room in Montana drinking wine alone every night and jumping every time a car backfired. Thought about the phone call she'd have to make if she let herself become what her father had been. Then she thought about Martinez screaming as blood pumped from his leg. About Morrison dead in the first seconds of the ambush. About all the men who'd be dead right now if she'd kept her promise. Negative, she said, lowering the rifle. He's wounded, retreating. Not a threat. Kane's jaw tightened. That's not your call, Specialist. You asked me if I could take him. I can. You didn't ask me if I should. He's enemy combatant. He just tried to kill us. And he failed. He's done. Kira turned to face Kane directly. If you want him dead, have Cooper shoot him. But I'm not executing wounded men who are running away. The silence stretched tight as wire. Kane's hand went to his sidearm, and for a moment Kira thought he was actually going to shoot the wounded fighter himself. Then he exhaled hard and waved Cooper forward. Take the shot. Cooper moved into position, settling behind his rifle. He scanned through his scope, searching. 30 seconds passed, then a minute. Chief, I still don't see him. Are you sure he's there? Kane looked at Kira. She pointed. Follow the ridge line to that split boulder. He's about 50 meters beyond, it moving left to right. Cooper adjusted, searching. I don't wait. Yeah, I see movement. Maybe. It's really far, Chief. Wind's picking up. I don't know if I can... Just take the shot. Cooper settled in, controlled his breathing, fired. The crack echoed across the valley. Through her scope, Kira watched the bullet impact 3 feet to the right of the wounded fighter, who immediately dropped and disappeared behind cover. Missed, Cooper said, frustration clear in his voice. I can't see him anymore. Kane's radio crackled. Echo 2-3 Liberty Base, we have QRF inbound to your location, ETA 15 minutes. Sit tight, over. Copy that, Liberty Base. Kane holstered his sidearm and looked at Kira. We'll finish this conversation later. She nodded, not trusting her voice. The quick reaction force arrived in a storm of dust and diesel, 3 Humvees, and an MRAP bristling with weapons and hard-faced operators who looked disappointed they'd missed the fight. Their lieutenant, a squared-away ranger named Walsh, took one look at the dead Americans being loaded into body bags, and his expression went cold. Brief me, he said to Kane. While Kane walked Walsh through the ambush, Kira slipped back to the comms truck. Stevens was there running diagnostics on the equipment. He looked up when she approached, his eyes going to the rifle in her hands. Specialist, he said carefully, that was some pretty incredible shooting. Don't what? Don't make this into something it's not. She started breaking down the rifle hands, moving on autopilot. Stock, barrel, scope, each piece going back into its case like she could disassemble what had happened along with the weapon. Stevens watched her for a moment. My dad was infantry, 3 tours in Iraq. He used to say there's 2 kinds of soldiers, the ones who can kill and the ones who can't. He said the second kind don't last long. I'm not a soldier, I'm a specialist. You're a soldier who just saved all our lives. Stevens leaned against the truck. For what it's worth, I'm glad you were here. Glad you did what you did. Kira locked the case and shoved it back under her seat. Yeah, well, don't spread it around. Little late for that. He was right. She could see it in the way the other SEALs were looking at her. The whispered conversations. The pointing. Word was spreading fast. By tonight, everyone at Liberty Base would know. By tomorrow, Command would know. By next week, her whole life would be different. The convoy reformed for the journey back to base, but this time Kira wasn't in the comms truck. Kane had insisted she ride with the SEALs, said he wanted her where he could see her. She suspected it was more about making sure she didn't disappear before he could file his report. She ended up in Kane's Humvee, wedged between Cooper and a quiet SEAL named Rodriguez, who kept stealing glances at her like she might spontaneously combust. The ride back was tense, everyone watching the ridgelines expecting another ambush. It didn't come. "So," Cooper said after 20 minutes of silence, "your dad really was Warhawk." Kira stared out the window. "Yeah, I heard stories about him. Instructors at sniper school used to talk about some of his shots. There was this one in Fallujah, supposedly he—" "I don't want to hear it." Cooper fell silent. Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably. From the front seat, Kane caught her eye in the rearview mirror, but said nothing. They rolled through the gates of Forward Operating Base Liberty just after 1400 hours. The base was a sprawling collection of prefab buildings, concrete barriers, and guard towers, home to about 300 personnel and enough firepower to level a small city. Kira had been here for 6 months and had successfully made herself invisible. Just another comms specialist fixing radios and routing calls. That invisibility died the moment they pulled into the motor pool. People were already gathering, drawn by the news that had raced ahead of them over the radio. The convoy that was supposed to be wiped out had survived. Someone had taken out 10 enemy snipers. Everyone wanted to know who. Kane jumped out of the Humvee and immediately started barking orders, getting the wounded to the medical facility, securing the vehicles, establishing a perimeter. But people were still staring at Kira as she climbed out, and she heard her name rippling through the crowd. "That's her. The comms girl." "No way. I heard she dropped all 10 herself." "Bullshit." A captain Kira did not recognize pushed through the crowd, making a beeline for Kane. They had a quick, intense conversation, the captain's eyes flicking repeatedly to Kira. Then he was walking toward her, hand extended. "Specialist Ashford, Captain Miller Company Commander, I'd like to speak with you in my office, now." It wasn't a request. Miller's office was sparse and utilitarian, decorated with nothing but maps and unit photos. He gestured Kira to a chair, then sat behind his desk, fingers steepled. "Chief Kane gave me a preliminary report. I'd like to hear your version." Kira kept her voice neutral, professional. "We were ambushed approximately 0700 hours. Multiple casualties. I engaged enemy targets to protect the convoy." "How many targets?" 10 confirmed. "Distance?" 500 to 1,000 meters. Miller's eyebrows rose. "And your training, where did you learn to shoot like that?" Here it was, the question she'd been dreading. "My father taught me, sir, before I enlisted." "Your father?" Miller pulled up something on his computer, scanned it. "Staff Sergeant Marcus Ashford, Ranger Regiment, KIA 2018. He looked up. "That's quite a legacy." "Sir, I enlisted as communications. That's my MOS. What happened today was—" "Extraordinary," Miller interrupted. "Specialist, you just single-handedly saved a SEAL convoy. Do you have any idea how valuable that makes you?" Kira's stomach dropped. "Sir, with respect, I'm not interested in—" "What you're interested in is irrelevant." Miller's voice went hard. "We're in a combat zone. We use the assets we have. And you, specialist, are one hell of an asset." He stood. "I'm recommending you for immediate reassignment to a sniper unit. We'll have you working with a scout platoon running overwatch on—" "No." The word came out before Kira could stop it. Miller's expression went cold. "Excuse me?" "Sir, I respectfully decline." "You don't get to decline, specialist. This is the military, not a democracy." Kira stood, her hands balled into fists at her sides. "Sir, I made a commitment to my mother. I promised her I wouldn't—" "Your mother isn't in my chain of command." Miller leaned forward. "Specialist Ashford, people are dying out there. Good people. And you have a skill that can save them. What kind of person hides that skill because of a promise made to someone who isn't even here?" The words hit like bullets. Kira felt her throat close up, felt tears threatening again. "Permission to be dismissed, sir." "Denied. Sit down." She sat, didn't trust herself to speak. Miller's voice softened slightly. "Look, I understand this is hard, but you proved today that you can do something most soldiers can't. That makes you special. That makes you necessary. And in this war, necessary trumps comfortable every single time. I didn't join it to be a sniper. No, you joined to hide from what you are." Miller pulled out a file, slid it across the desk. "This is your father's service record. I pulled it after Kane's call. Do you know what his last operation was?" Kira didn't want to know, didn't want to hear it, but Miller pressed on. "He was running overwatch for a convoy, protecting them. He died doing it." Miller's eyes locked on hers. Your father understood that some skills are too important to waste. He used his to save lives right up until the moment he gave his own. Are you going to honor that legacy or run from it? The office door burst open. Kane stood there breathing hard. Sir, we've got a problem. Miller frowned. Chief, I'm in the middle of... The wounded fighter Ashford spotted, the one that got away. Kane's face was grim. Intel just intercepted chatter. He made it back to his cell, and he's telling everyone about the American woman who shot like a ghost. They're calling her Al-Shabaab, the Phantom. Kira's blood went cold. Miller stood. How bad? Bad enough that 3 different Taliban commanders just put a bounty on her head. $5,000 American dollars to whoever brings them the woman sniper from the convoy. Kane looked at Kira. Specialist, as of right now, you're the most wanted American in the province. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fired round. $5,000. In Afghanistan, that was enough money to feed a family for 2 years. Enough to make desperate men do terrible things. Kira felt the walls of Miller's office closing in. Her hands went numb. They know I'm a woman. The survivor saw you, Kane said. Described you to his commander. Young blonde-hair American. They're spreading your description across every Taliban network in the province. Miller slammed his hand on the desk. How the hell did this happen? We don't even have women in combat roles officially. How did they... It doesn't matter how, sir, Kane interrupted. What matters is Specialist Ashford just became the highest value target on this base. Every insurgent within 100 miles is going to be gunning for her. Kira's mind was racing, trying to process. She'd broken her promise to save lives, and now she had a target painted on her back. The irony was suffocating. I need to call my mother. Negative, Miller said immediately. All personal communications are suspended until we assess the security situation. Sir, she needs to know. What she needs to know is that you're alive and doing your job. That's it. Miller turned to Kane. Get her to the TOC. I want her locked down under guard until we figure out our next move. Wait. Kira stood, her voice stronger than she felt. You can't just lock me up. I haven't done anything wrong. You've done everything right, which is exactly the problem. Miller grabbed his radio. Sergeant Hayes, I need a security detail to my office immediately. Kane stepped between Miller and Kira. Sir, with respect, locking her in the TOC makes her a sitting duck. If there's a leak, and we both know there probably is, they'll know exactly where to find her. What do you suggest, Chief? Put her with my team. We're heading out on patrol tomorrow night. Take her into the field, keep her mobile, make her a harder target. Miller's eyes narrowed. You want to take the most wanted American in the province outside the wire? That's insane. Keeping her here is insane. Sir, whoever planned that ambush knew our route, our timing, everything. That means someone on this base is feeding intel to the enemy. You put Ashford in a locky room, you might as well paint a bullseye on the door. Kira looked between them, feeling like a piece of equipment being negotiated over. I should have a say in this. Both men ignored her. Miller paced behind his desk, thinking, if I approve this, she goes armed, full combat load, and she's under your personal protection, Chief. Anything happens to her, nothing will happen to her. You can't guarantee that. No, sir, I can't. But I can guarantee that keeping her on base is a death sentence. At least in the field, she's got a fighting chance. The door opened and 3 armed soldiers entered, all looking confused about why they'd been summoned. Miller waved them off. False alarm. Dismissed. After they left, Miller turned back to Kira. Specialist, I'm giving you a direct order. You will accompany Chief Kane's team on their patrol. You will follow his instructions without question. And you will use your skills to keep yourself and your team alive. Are we clear? Kira wanted to argue, wanted to refuse, wanted to do anything but accept that her life had just been completely upended. But military training ran deep. Yes, sir. Good. Chief, brief her on the mission parameters. I want a full operational plan on my desk by 1800 hours. Miller sat down, already reaching for his phone. And Chief, keep her alive. We just found out we've got a ghost in our ranks. I have a feeling we're going to need her. Kane led Kira out of the office and across the compound toward the SEALs' quarters. People stopped and stared as they passed. Word had spread faster than a desert wildfire. Everyone knew who she was now. Everyone knew what she'd done. This is a nightmare, Kira said quietly. Could be worse. You could be dead. Give it time. Kane stopped walking and turned to face her. Look, I know this isn't what you wanted, but Miller's right about one thing. You've got a skill that can save lives. And right now, my team needs someone who can shoot like you can. You've got Cooper. Cooper's good. You're better. Kane's voice dropped. I saw what you did out there, Ashford. Those weren't just good shots. That was art. And I've been doing this long enough to know that kind of talent doesn't come around often. My father. Your father's dead. You're not. Kane's eyes were hard but not unkind. And you get to choose what you do with the time you've got. You can hide from it or you can own it. But you don't get to do both. Before Kira could respond, Cooper came jogging over. Chief, we've got a problem. What now? Intel just pulled drone footage from the ambush site. You need to see this. They followed Cooper to the operations center, a climate-controlled building that smelled like coffee and electronic equipment. A young intelligence analyst named Lieutenant Park was waiting for them, tablet in hand. Chief Kane, Specialist Ashford. Park nodded to them both. We've been reviewing the aerial footage from your engagement. There's something you need to see. She pulled up the video on a large monitor. Grainy overhead footage showed the convoy, the ambush, the firefight. Then Kara saw herself exit the comms truck, take position, start firing. Even from above, her movements looked smooth, professional, efficient. That's not the problem, Park said, fast-forwarding. The footage jumped to 30 minutes after the firefight ended. The convoy had already evacuated. But movement on the ridge caught Kira's attention. 4 figures emerged from cover, moving toward the positions where the enemy snipers had been killed. Cleanup crew, Kane said. Standard procedure. They collect their dead. Watch what they do next. The figures gathered around one body, but instead of taking it away, they seemed to be examining it. One of them pulled out what looked like a phone, started taking pictures. Then they moved to the next body, did the same thing. Every single kill site photographed and documented. They're documenting the shot placements, Kira said, her stomach sinking. Park nodded. Every single one. Headshot, center mass, consistent grouping. They're building a profile. Of me. Of whoever made those shots. And that's not all. Park pulled up another file. We intercepted communications between 3 different Taliban cells in the last 2 hours. They're all talking about Al-Shabaab, the Phantom, a female American sniper who can kill from distances their shooters can't match. They're treating you like a myth, like a ghost story. Kane's jaw tightened. That's going to make her an obsession. Already has. The bounty's up to $7,000 now. And it's not just Taliban. We're picking up chatter from Haqqani network, possibly some foreign fighters too. Everyone wants to be the one who takes down the Phantom. Kira felt sick. This is insane. I'm just a communications specialist who made some shots. I'm not some legendary sniper. You are now, Park said simply, whether you like it or not. Kane turned to leave, gesturing for Kira to follow. Come on, we need to prep for tomorrow's patrol. The SEALs' ready room was organized chaos. Weapons being cleaned, gear being inspected, men moving with the kind of focused intensity that came from knowing they'd be outside the wire soon. Everyone looked up when Kane and Kira entered. Listen up, Kane announced. Mission brief in 5, everyone stays. Specialist Ashford is joining our patrol. The room went silent. Rodriguez broke it first. Chief, no disrespect, but she's support staff. She's not trained for... She's the best shot on this base, Kane interrupted. Better than Cooper, better than me, better than anyone you've ever seen. And we're going into territory where we need someone who can shoot like that. Cooper stood up from where he'd been cleaning his rifle. Chief's right, I watched her work. She's legit. She still comms, another SEAL said. A hard-faced operator named Mitchell, who Kira had seen around but never spoken to. We take her out there, we're babysitting. Kira's temper flared. I don't need a babysitter. Mitchell turned to her, his expression skeptical. You ever been in sustained combat specialist? Ever had someone trying to kill you for hours at a time? Ever had to move under fire, treat wounded, hold a position while the world's exploding around you? No. Then you need a babysitter. Kane stepped forward. Mitchell, stand down. Ashford's coming. That's final. Anyone has a problem with it, you can take it up with Captain Miller. No one moved, but Kira could feel the resistance radiating from them like heat. These were elite operators used to working together, trusting each other with their lives. She was an outsider, a comms specialist who'd gotten lucky, a liability. Kane spread a map across the table. All right, mission brief. Tomorrow night, 2300 hours, we're hitting a compound in the Korangal Valley. Intel says it's a high-value target, Taliban commander named Nazir Ahmad. He's been coordinating attacks on coalition forces for the last 6 months. We go in, neutralize him, extract any intelligence we find. What's the comms girl's role? Mitchell asked, not bothering to hide his disdain. Overwatch, Kane said. Armysniper. Ashford sets up on the ridge with Cooper, provides cover while the assault team goes in. Cooper frowned. Chief, I usually work alone. Not this time, you'll be primary spotter. Ashford's primary shooter. That's backwards, Cooper said. I'm the trained sniper. She's better than you, Kane said flatly. I watched you both work today. No offense, Coop, but she's in a different league. Cooper's face went red, but he didn't argue. Kira felt everyone's eyes on her, measuring, judging, finding her wanting. Equipment check at 2200 hours, Kane continued. Full combat load. We're expecting resistance, so bring extra ammo. Questions? Rodriguez raised his hand. What about the bounty? Everyone knows they're looking for her. We take her into the field, we're painting a target on the whole team. The target's already painted, Kane said. Taking her out there at least gives us the advantage of surprise. They're expecting her to be locked down on base, not running operations. We use that. The room fell silent again. Kira could feel the tension, the unspoken resentment. These men didn't want her here, didn't trust her, and she couldn't blame them. Kane dismissed the team but gestured for Kira to stay. When everyone else had filed out, he closed the door. That could have gone better, Kira said. Could have gone worse. At least nobody punched you. Kane pulled out a chair, sat down heavily. Look, they'll come around. SEALs are tribal. You're not part of the tribe yet, but you will be. I don't want to be part of the tribe. I want to do my job and go home. Your job just changed specialists. The sooner you accept it, the easier this gets. Kira sat down across from him, suddenly exhausted. This morning I was fixing radios. Now I've got a bounty on my head and I'm going on a SEAL mission. How is any of this real? Kane studied her for a long moment. You want the truth? This was always who you were. You just spent 8 years pretending to be someone else. Today the mask came off, that's all. Your mother made you promise something impossible. You can't hide who you are forever. Kane leaned forward. My old man was a Marine, Vietnam. 3 tours, came back with a chest full of medals and a head full of nightmares. He made me promise I'd never join up, never go to war, never become what he became. But you did. Because it's who I am, and spending my life denying that would have killed me slower than any bullet. Kane's voice softened. Your mom was scared. I get it, but she was wrong to make you promise that. You know why Gamal and Kira shook her head. Because the world needs people like you. People who can do things other people can't. And asking you to hide that is like asking the sun not to shine. It's against nature. Kira felt tears burning again. She almost killed herself after my dad died. Did you know that I found her in the garage, car running, door closed? I was 16. Kane's expression didn't change. I didn't know, I'm sorry. She made me promise right there in the hospital while they were pumping charcoal into her stomach. Said she couldn't lose me too. Said if I went into combat, she'd finish what she started. And I believed her. Kira's voice cracked. So I promised, and I meant it. I really did. And today you broke it. Because people were dying. Because I had to. Because it was the right thing to do, Kane corrected. And that's going to have to be enough. A knock on the door interrupted them. Doc Henderson stuck his head in. Chief, you're needed in medical. Martinez wants to talk to you. Kane stood. Be right there. He turned back to Kira. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. But rest didn't come. Kira lay in her bunk in the female quarters, staring at the ceiling while her mind raced. Around her, other women slept, their breathing soft and steady. None of them knew what she'd done. None of them had bounties on their heads. She pulled out her phone, looked at her mother's number. Miller had said no personal communications, but he wasn't here. Her thumb hovered over the call button. What would she even say? Hi, Mom, I broke my promise today. I killed 10 people. Now there are men who want to kill me. Hope you're doing well. She put the phone away. At 0300 hours, unable to sleep, Kira got up and walked to the firing range. The base never really slept, but this time of night was as quiet as it got. She checked out a rifle from the armory, grabbed some ammo, and headed to the range. The night air was cold, the sky brilliant with stars unmarred by light pollution. Kira set up at the 1,000-meter range, the longest distance available. She loaded the rifle, settled into position, and fired. The first shot hit dead center. So did the second. And the third. She kept shooting, letting muscle memory take over, letting her mind go quiet. This was what her father had taught her. Not just how to shoot, but how to find peace in the discipline of it. How to silence the noise of the world and exist only in the space between heartbeats. Couldn't sleep either. Kira jerked around to find Cooper standing behind her, his own rifle slung over his shoulder. She hadn't heard him approach. "Just needed to clear my head," she said. Cooper moved to the lane next to hers, set up his rifle. "Mind if I join you, Tawheen? Free country." They shot in silence for several minutes. Cooper was good, Kira noticed. His groupings were tight, his movements efficient. He'd obviously spent years honing his craft. "How long have you been shooting?" he asked finally. "Since I was 8. My dad started me on .22s, worked me up to bigger calibers. And you never wanted to make it official. Join a sniper unit." Kira lowered her rifle. "It wasn't about wanting, it was about promises." Cooper nodded slowly. "The chief told us. About your mom. About what happened. He had no right." "He had every right. We were going into combat together. We need to know who you are. What makes you tick?" Cooper fired another shot, then turned to face her. "Look, I'm not going to lie. I was pissed when Kane said you were primary shooter tomorrow. I've been doing this for 6 years. I've earned that position. I didn't ask for it. I know. That's the only reason I'm not still pissed." Cooper smiled slightly. "I watched your shots today. Analyzed the angles, the distances, the conditions. You made shots I'm not sure I could make, and I've been training my whole career to make shots like that. My father was a good teacher. Your father was a legend, but you're the one pulling the trigger now." Cooper picked up his rifle again. "So here's the deal. Tomorrow you're primary shooter. I'm primary spotter. We work together, we trust each other, and we bring everyone home. Can you do that?" Kira met his eyes, saw no resentment there now, just professional respect. "Yeah, I can do that." "Good. Now show me that 1,000-meter shot you made today, because I still don't believe it." They stayed on the range until the sun started to rise, two snipers finding common ground in the only language they both spoke fluently, the mathematics of death delivered from distance. When Kira finally made it back to her bunk, exhausted, there was a message waiting on her phone. Unknown number. She almost deleted it, then curiosity got the better of her. The message was in Pashto. She ran it through a translation app, and her blood turned to ice. "We know who you are, Al-Shabaab. We know what you did, and we are coming for you. Your father died screaming. You will too." Kira's hands shook as she stared at the message. The words blurred and refocused. "Your father died screaming." She tried to breathe, but her lungs wouldn't work right. The walls of the barracks pressed in, suffocating. She stumbled outside, barely making it to the corner of the building before she doubled over and vomited. Her whole body trembled. The phone fell from her hand into the dirt. "Ashford." She looked up. Mitchell was standing there in PT gear, sweat-soaked from a morning run. His expression shifted from annoyance to concern in half a second. "You all right?" "Fine." She wiped her mouth, tried to stand straight, failed. Mitchell picked up her phone, saw the message still glowing on the screen. His jaw tightened. "When did you get this? Just now?" "You report it yet?" "I literally just opened it 30 seconds ago." Mitchell pulled out his own phone, started dialing. "Chief needs to see this, now." "It's just a threat. I'm sure they send 1,000,000 of these." "They knew about your father, how he died." Mitchell's voice was hard. "That's not generic Taliban propaganda. That's specific intelligence." Kane arrived within 10 minutes, still pulling on his shirt. He read the message twice, his face darkening. "Lieutenant Park, my office, 5 minutes." He looked at Kira. "You too." The operations center was already humming with activity despite the early hour. Park was there in 3 minutes, tablet in hand, looking like she'd never slept. She probably hadn't. Kane showed her the message. "Can you trace this?" Park's fingers flew across her tablet. "Already on it. Phones using a local cell tower bouncing through 3 different proxies. Whoever sent this knows what they're doing." She looked up, but they made one mistake. The message came from inside a 5-mile radius of the base. Kira's stomach dropped. "Inside, you mean?" "I mean, whoever sent this is close, very close." Park pulled up a map on the main screen. "Could be a local national working on base. Could be someone in the village, just outside the wire. Could even be..." "Someone on base," Kane finished. "An American." The room went silent. The implication hung there like a grenade with the pin pulled. "That's impossible," Mitchell said. "No American would..." "We already know there's a leak," Kane interrupted. "How else did the Taliban know our convoy route? Our timing, everything." He turned to Park. "Pull security footage from all entry points for the last 24 hours. Cross-reference with anyone who had access to convoy details. I want a list on my desk in 2 hours." "On it." Park was already typing. Kane pulled Kira aside. "You're staying with..." My team until we figure this out. No solo movements, no unescorted trips anywhere. Someone's always with you. Chief, I can take care of. That's not a request specialist. It's an order. Kane's eyes were hard. They knew about your father. They knew how he died. That information isn't public. It's in classified files, which means whoever's feeding intel to the Taliban has access to personnel records. The weight of it hit Kira like a punch. They're looking for leverage, ways to get in my head. And it's working. Kane gestured to her hands, still shaking slightly. You're rattled. That's what they want. Don't give it to them. Easier said than done. The message kept replaying in her head. Your father died screaming. Was it true? Had he suffered? She'd always imagined the IED had killed him instantly, that he hadn't felt anything. But what if Ashford? Kane snapped his fingers in front of her face. Stay with me. Don't go down that road. How did you know? Because I've been doing this long enough to recognize when someone's spiraling. Kane's voice softened slightly. Whatever they said about your father, it's meant to hurt you. Truth doesn't matter. Only effect. Don't let them win. Rodriguez stuck his head in. Chief, equipment checks ready. You wanted everyone assembled by 0800. Be right there. Kane turned back to Kira. Get your gear. We're moving up the mission timeline. What? We're not supposed to go out until tonight. That was before someone inside our perimeter started sending you death threats. We go now while we still have the advantage of surprise. They assembled in the ready room at 0830. The entire SEAL team plus Kira all geared up and ready to move. Cooper handed Kira her father's rifle, now fitted with updated optics and a fresh coat of matte black paint. Took the liberty of upgrading your scope, Cooper said. Thermal imaging, night vision rangefinder. Best we've got. Kira took the rifle, felt its familiar weight. You didn't have to. Yeah, I did. You're running Overwatch with me. I need you at peak performance. Cooper met her eyes. Plus, it's a beautiful weapon. Deserves the best equipment. Doc Henderson moved through the group doing final medical checks. When he got to Kira, he pulled her aside. You taking anything for the nerves? No, no. Want something? I can give you something that'll take the edge off, won't impair your shooting. Kira shook her head. I need to feel everything. Can't shoot if I'm numb. Doc nodded like he understood. Just remember, fear keeps you alive. It's only a problem when it stops you from acting. Kane called everyone to attention. Listen up. Mission's a go, but we're moving fast. Intel says our targets at the compound now might not be there tonight. We hit hard, we hit fast, we get out clean. He pulled up aerial photos on a monitor. Ashford and Cooper, you're setting up here. He pointed to a ridge overlooking the target compound. 800 meters out, good elevation, clear line of sight. You'll have Overwatch while the assault team moves in. What's the exit strategy? Mitchell asked. Same as entry, fast and quiet. We've got helos on standby for extract if things go sideways, but I want to walk out the same way we walk in. Kane looked around the room. Everyone clear. Nods all around. Good. We roll out in 30. Check your gear, hydrate, and get your heads right. This is going to be a long day. The convoy rolled out at 0915, 3 Humvees carrying the assault team plus a support vehicle. Kira rode with Kane and Cooper wedged in the back with enough ammunition to fight a small war. Her stomach was twisted in knots. The message kept playing in her head. We are coming for you. Cooper must have noticed her tension. First combat op. First everything, Kira admitted. I've never been outside the wire except for convoy runs. It's different when you're hunting instead of being hunted, better in my opinion. Cooper checked his rifle for the 3rd time. Just remember your training. Breathe, stay calm, trust your spotter. That's you. That's me, and I'm very good at my job. Cooper smiled. Together, we're going to be unstoppable. Kane's voice came over the radio. All units stay sharp. Intel reports increased Taliban activity in the area. Could be related to the bounty, could be coincidence. Either way, keep your eyes open. The drive took 90 minutes winding through mountain roads that would have been beautiful if Kira hadn't been so terrified. Every boulder looked like it could hide an IED. Every hillside could conceal snipers. Her hands gripped her rifle so hard, her knuckles went white. They stopped 3 miles from the target. Everyone dismounted, moving quickly and quietly. The assault team would approach from the south. Kira and Cooper would circle around to the ridge on the north side. Kane pulled Kira aside one last time. You good? I'm good. Remember your Overwatch. You see threats, you eliminate them. Don't wait for permission. You see someone about to kill one of my men, you drop them. Clear. Clear. And Ashford, don't die. I've got enough paperwork as it is. It might have been a joke. With Kane, it was hard to tell. Cooper led the way up the ridge, moving with practiced ease. Kira followed, trying to match his pace, trying not to think about the message, about the bounty, about all the ways this could go wrong. They reached the overlook position at 1100 hours. Cooper immediately started setting up, choosing a spot with good cover and clear sightlines. Kira moved beside him, settling into position. Through her scope, the compound came into sharp focus. A cluster of mud brick buildings surrounded by a low wall. 2 armed guards visible at the entrance, probably more inside. I've got 2 sentries at the gate, Kira reported over the radio. Copy that, Kane's voice crackled back. We're in position. Stand by. Cooper pulled out a laser rangefinder. Distance to target, 812 meters. Wind, Kira licked her finger, held it up. 4 to 6 miles per hour left to right. Temperatures climbing, figure 15 degrees hotter than this morning. Adjust accordingly. They settled into wait. This was the hardest part, Kira realized. Not the shooting, the waiting. Her mind kept drifting to dark places. The message, her father, her mother sitting alone in Montana, not knowing her daughter had just become the most wanted American in Afghanistan. You're thinking too much, Cooper said quietly. I can hear your brain from here. How do you not think about it, the people you've killed? Cooper was quiet for a moment. I think about them all the time, every face, every shot, but not when I'm working. When I'm working, there's only the target, the wind, and the math. Everything else is noise. How do you turn it off? Practice. Lots of practice. Cooper adjusted his scope. You'll get there, or you won't, and you'll burn out. Most people can't do this long term. That's why there aren't many of us. Movement in the compound. A door opened and a man emerged. Kira felt her breath catch. Even at 800 meters, even through the wavering heat distortion, she recognized him from the intel photos. Nazir Ahmad, their target. I've got eyes on primary target, she transmitted. Northwest building just exited. He's talking to the guards. Copy, Kane replied. Hold position. We're moving in. Through her scope, Kira watched the assault team approach. They moved like ghosts, using the terrain for cover, advancing in perfect coordination. Kane led from the front, hand signals directing his men with precision. Then everything went wrong at once. One of the guards' radios crackled. He stiffened, said something to Nazir. The Taliban commander's head snapped up, scanning the perimeter. He shouted something, and suddenly the compound exploded with activity. Men poured out of buildings, grabbing weapons, taking defensive positions. They know we're here, Kane's voice tight with controlled fury. Someone tipped them off. All units weapons free, engage at will. The first shot came from the compound, then another. The SEALs returned fire, the valley erupting in chaos. Cooper, I need targets, Kira said, forcing her voice to stay level. Guard tower, you're 10 o'clock. He's got an RPG. Kira swung her rifle, acquired the target. The man was loading the launcher, aiming toward Kane's position. She calculated distance, wind elevation. Squeezed the trigger. The guard dropped. The RPG clattered to the ground, unfired. Good kill, Cooper said. Next target, rooftop, 2 o'clock. Machine gunner. She found him fired. He fell. 3 o'clock behind the wall. Guy with a radio. He's calling reinforcements. Third shot, third kill. You're on fire, Cooper said. Keep it up. But Kira's attention was drawn to Nazir. He was running toward a vehicle, trying to escape. If he got away, the whole mission was blown. I've got the primary, she transmitted. He's mobile, heading to the east side vehicle. Take the shot if you've got it, Kane ordered. Nazir was moving fast, weaving between buildings. Not an easy target. Kira tracked him through her scope, waiting for the right moment. He stumbled slightly just for a second. She fired. Nazir went down hard, clutching his leg. Not a kill shot, but he wasn't going anywhere. Primary is down, Kira reported. Leg shot still alive. Outstanding. Mitchell Rodriguez, secure the target. Everyone else clear those buildings. The firefight intensified. More Taliban fighters emerged from hiding, laying down heavy fire. The SEALs were pinned, taking cover behind a low wall. Cooper's rangefinder beeped. We've got vehicles inbound. 2 trucks, maybe 3. Reinforcements. ETA 2 minutes. Kira's heart raced. Chief, you've got hostiles coming in from the east. Multiple vehicles. Copy that. We need to speed this up. Ashford, keep those reinforcements off us. The first truck appeared, bouncing over rough terrain. Men were standing in the bed, weapons ready. Kira aimed for the driver, fired. The truck swerved, wildly crashed into a boulder. The men in the back were thrown clear. Second truck, same strategy, driver down, truck disabled. But the third truck had learned. The driver was hunched low using the dashboard for cover. Kira couldn't get a clean shot. Cooper, I can't see the driver. Shoot the engine block. Disable the vehicle. She shifted aim, put 3 rounds into the engine. Steam and smoke erupted. The truck rolled to a stop dead. But the men inside were already dismounting, taking positions, adding their firepower to the defenders. The SEALs were seriously outnumbered now. Chief, you need to pull back, Kira transmitted. You're about to be overrun. Negative, we've got Nazir, not leaving without him. Kane's voice was strained. Just keep shooting. Kira kept shooting. Target after target. She fell into a rhythm, letting muscle memory take over. Breathe, acquire, calculate, fire. Move to next target. Repeat. She lost count of how many she dropped. 10, 15. They kept coming. Then Cooper grabbed her shoulder. We've got a problem. Look at the ridge behind the compound. Kira shifted her scope. Her blood went cold. 3 men were setting up on the opposite ridge. Professional positioning. Long rifles, sniper team. They're hunting us, Cooper said quietly. They know there's an overwatch position. They're trying to find us. Can they see us? Not yet, but they will. Cooper was already packing up his gear. We need to relocate, now. The assault team needs us. The assault team needs us alive. Come on. They moved fast 30 meters to a new position with different angles. They'd barely settled in when bullets tore through their old location, kicking up dirt and stone fragments. They had us zeroed, Cooper said. Another 10 seconds and we'd be dead. Kira's hands were shaking again. She forced them steady. I need to take them out. Negative. They're over 1,000 meters out behind cover and they know we're here somewhere. That's a suicide shot. So what do? We keep our heads down and hope the assault team finishes fast. But the assault team was in trouble. Kira could see it through her scope. They'd secured Nazir, but were taking heavy fire from multiple directions. Doc Henderson was working on someone wounded, Martinez maybe, or Rodriguez. She couldn't tell. Kane's voice over the radio, tight with stress. Ashford, I need suppressing fire on that north building. We've got men pinned. Chief, there's a sniper team hunting us. If I fire, they'll locate our position. A pause, then, do it anyway, my men are dying down here. Kira looked at Cooper. He was already shaking his head. Don't, it's a death sentence. They need us. And they need us alive more than they need one burst of suppressing fire. Kira, listen to me. She was already moving, settling into position, acquiring targets in the north building. 3 men with automatic weapons pouring fire onto Kane's position. She fired 3 times in rapid succession. 3 men down. Immediately bullets cracked overhead. The enemy snipers had her position now. Cooper yanked her down just as a round passed through the space where her head had been. Move, move. They scrambled to new cover, bullets chasing them. Kira's knee hit a rock and pain exploded up her leg. She ignored it, kept moving. They dove behind a boulder cluster just as sustained fire raked their previous position. Dust and rock fragments filled the air. They're good, Cooper panted. Really good. Can you see them? Negative. They're behind cover. We can't hit what we can't see. Kira's radio crackled. Ashford, Cooper, what's your status? We're okay, Chief. Just relocating. We'll relocate faster. We're pulling out in 60 seconds with or without you. Cooper grabbed Kira's arm. We need to fall back, now. Circle around, meet them at the rally point. But as Kira turned to move, she caught something in her peripheral vision. A glint of light on the opposite ridge, just for a second. The enemy sniper had moved, exposing himself for just an instant. She knew where he was now. Cooper, I need 30 seconds. We don't have 30 seconds. I can take him. I know where he is. Cooper looked at her like she'd lost her mind. You can't see him. How can you? I don't need to see him. I know where he has to be. Trust me. For a long moment, Cooper didn't move. Then he nodded. 30 seconds. That's it. Kira settled her rifle, aimed at a spot on the opposite ridge where nothing was visible. She was aiming at negative space, at where logic and experience told her a sniper would have to position himself for the angle she'd seen. She thought about her father, about all those days in Montana learning to read terrain, learning to think like a sniper. Where would you set up, baby girl? Where would you hide? Right there, behind that rock formation, using the shadow for concealment, just enough gap for a rifle barrel. She fired. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then a body rolled out from behind the rocks, tumbling down the slope. Cooper stared. How the hell did you make that shot? You couldn't even see him. My dad taught me. Sometimes you don't shoot what you see, you shoot what has to be there. More bullets incoming, the other snipers repositioning angry now. Kira and Cooper ran, keeping low using the terrain. Behind them, the ridge they had been on was being systematically destroyed by enemy fire. They reached the rally point 3 minutes later, gasping for breath. The assault team was already there, Nazir zip-tied and unconscious, being loaded onto a stretcher. Kane looked them over. You both good? Better than good, Cooper said, still slightly awed. Chief, she just made a shot I wouldn't have attempted in a million years. Killed a guy she couldn't even see. Save the war stories. We need to move. Kane keyed his radio. All units wear Oscar Mike. Extract point Alpha double time. They moved fast through the valley, carrying their wounded and their prisoner. Behind them, the sound of vehicles and angry voices echoed off the rocks. The Taliban were regrouping, preparing to pursue. The extract birds were already inbound when they reached the landing zone. 2 Black Hawks rotors beating the air, kicking up massive dust clouds. The team loaded quickly, efficiently, everyone moving with practiced precision. Kira was the last one on. She took a seat between Cooper and Mitchell, her rifle across her lap, adrenaline still singing through her veins. As the helicopter lifted off, she looked back at the valley below. Smoke rose from the compound. Bodies dotted the landscape. All that death, all that violence, and they'd accomplished their mission. But at what cost? Kane's voice in her headset pulled her back. Outstanding work today, Ashford. You saved lives down there. She nodded but couldn't find words. Her hands were shaking again. Now that the action was over, now that she had time to think, the weight of what she'd done was crushing. Cooper nudged her shoulder. First combat op. You did good. I killed people. You saved people. There's a difference. Was there? Kira wasn't sure anymore. The line between hero and killer seemed awfully thin from where she was sitting. The flight back to base took 20 minutes. When they landed, Captain Miller was waiting on the tarmac with Lieutenant Park and a full security detail. Miller's face was grave. Chief Kane, Specialist Ashford, we need to talk, now. They followed him to his office. Park pulled up her tablet, her expression tight. We traced that message, she said, and you are not going to like what we found. Kane leaned forward. Just tell us. Park turned her tablet around. On the screen was security footage showing someone in an American uniform entering the communications building at 0200 hours. The timestamp was from that morning, right before Kira had received the message. The figure looked around, then sat down at a terminal and started typing. Park zoomed in on the figure's face. Kira's stomach dropped. It was Stevens, her driver, the man who'd been with her during the ambush, the man she trusted. Kira stared at Stevens' face on the screen, her mind refusing to process what she was seeing. Stevens, the corporal who'd driven her convoy for 3 months, who'd shared his MREs when she forgot hers, who'd shown her pictures of his kid sister back in Ohio. That can't be right, she heard herself say. Stevens wouldn't. The footage doesn't lie. Park interrupted. That's him. At 0200 hours this morning, he accessed a secure terminal using his credentials and sent that message from a burner app designed to look like it originated outside the base. Kane's voice was deadly quiet. Where is he now? That's the problem, Miller said. He's gone. Didn't show up for duty this morning. We searched his quarters. Empty. He ghosted sometime between 0300 and 0500 hours. Kira felt like she'd been punched in the gut. He was with me during the ambush. He saw everything I did. He knows. He knows you're the Phantom, Kane finished. He knows your capabilities, your routines, your weaknesses. He turned to Miller. We need to find him, now. Already trying, but if he's smart, and clearly he is, he's already outside the wire. Probably made contact with his Taliban handlers by now. Miller's expression was grim. Which means they know everything. Your mission today, your tactics, everything. The room spun. Kira grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. Stevens had been there the whole time, watching her, reporting back, the ambush, the bounty. All of it made sense now. How long, she asked. How long has he been working for them? Park pulled up more files. We're still analyzing, but based on communications patterns, at least 6 months. Maybe longer. He's been feeding them intelligence on convoy routes, patrol schedules, personnel movements. 6 months, Kira's voice cracked. I've been riding with a traitor for 6 months. You couldn't have known, Kane said. I should have. I should have seen something. Some sign. He was trained to blend in. That's what makes him dangerous. Miller stood. We're locking down the base. No one in or out until we assess the damage. Park, I want a full audit of every piece of intel Stevens had access to. Kane, your team is grounded until further notice. Sir, with respect, grounding us is exactly what they want, Kane argued. They're trying to neutralize our best assets. We should be out there hunting Stevens, not hiding behind walls. Your best asset has a $7,000 bounty on her head, and the enemy now knows her complete operational profile. She goes outside the wire, she's dead. Miller's tone left no room for argument. This discussion is over. Dismissed. Outside Miller's office, Kane pulled Kira aside. His face was hard, but his eyes showed concern. You holding up. I trusted him, we all did. That's how betrayal works. It only hurts when it comes from someone you trust. Kane glanced back at Miller's office. But the captain's wrong about one thing, hiding isn't going to solve this. What are you saying? I'm saying Stevens is a problem that needs to be eliminated, and sometimes the best way to catch a traitor is to give him what he wants. Kira's pulse quickened. You want to use me as bait. I want to turn this situation to our advantage. Stevens told the Taliban you're a ghost, a myth. Let's prove him right. Let's make you into something they can't predict, can't counter, can't kill. The captain said, the captains think defensively. I'm thinking like a hunter. Kane lowered his voice. Stevens knows you, but he doesn't know what you're capable of becoming. Neither do the Taliban. We use that. Before Kira could respond, Rodriguez came running up. Chief, you need to see this, now. They followed him to the operations center. Park was already there, her face pale as she stared at multiple screens showing news feeds. It's gone viral, she said quietly. On the screens, Kira saw drone footage from the ambush. Grainy, distant, but unmistakable. Her taking position, firing, bodies dropping. The video had been edited, set to dramatic music, uploaded to a dozen different platforms with Arabic captions. Al-Shabaab, Park translated, the American ghost. They're turning you into a legend. Half the comments are calling for your death. The other half don't believe you're real. How did this get out? Kane demanded. Stevens, had to be. He had access to the drone feeds before he disappeared. Park pulled up analytics. The video's been viewed over 2 million times in the last 6 hours. It's spreading across every jihadi network in the region. Kira watched herself on screen, watched the edited footage that made her look like some kind of supernatural killer. Her stomach turned. This is insane. This is war, Kane said, and you just became the most famous soldier in Afghanistan. Cooper burst into the room out of breath. Chief, we've got a situation at the gate. You need to come see this. The main gate was surrounded by local nationals. Dozens of them, maybe 100, all pressing against the barriers, all trying to get the guards' attention. They were shouting in Pashto and Dari waving papers, holding up phones. What the hell is this? Kane asked the gate sergeant. Sir, they started showing up an hour ago. They're all claiming to have information about the Phantom, about Specialist Ashford. They want the reward money. What reward money? The sergeant handed Kane a printed flyer. It was in Pashto, but someone had translated it. 10,000 American dollars for information leading to the capture or death of Al-Shabaab, the American ghost sniper. 20,000 for proof of death. Jesus Christ, Kane muttered. They doubled the bounty again. One of the locals was shouting louder than the others, pointing at the base, gesturing wildly. The interpreter translated. He says he knows where she sleeps, says he works on base as a janitor. Saw her this morning. Kira felt ice in her veins. I saw a janitor this morning, in the female barracks figs. He was cleaning the bathroom. Kane's expression went hard. Get him, now. The guards grabbed the man, dragged him away from the crowd, despite his protests. Kane followed with Kira right behind. They took him to an interrogation room where Lieutenant Park was already setting up recording equipment. The janitor was young, maybe 20, and terrified. He kept looking at Kira with wide eyes, muttering prayers under his breath. Park started the questioning in Pashto. The man answered rapidly, hands shaking. Park's expression darkened with each response. He says Stevens approached him 3 days ago, Park translated. Paid him $200 to report on Ashford's movements, where she slept, when she ate her routines. What else? Kane demanded. More rapid conversation. Then Park looked at Kira. He says Stevens told him the ghost sniper killed his brother in Kandahar, said it was personal, said he'd pay triple if the janitor could help him get revenge. Kira's blood ran cold. Stevens doesn't have a brother. I've seen his file. He's an only child. So he lied to this guy to get him to spy on you. Kane leaned forward. Ask him where Stevens is now. The janitor shook his head frantically, speaking quickly. Park listened, then turned pale. He says Stevens left the base last night, told the janitor he'd be back tonight with friends, said they were going to make the ghost disappear forever. Tonight, Kane checked his watch. That's 6 hours from now. Miller stormed into the room. I heard, we're increasing security, doubling the guard, locking down every... It won't matter, Kane interrupted. If Stevens is coming back, he's got a plan. He knows this base better than we do, knows every weakness, every blind spot. Then what do you suggest, Chief? We don't wait for him to come to us. We go to him. Absolutely not. I'm not sending Ashford outside the wire when... Sir, they're coming for her anyway. At least if we're on offense, we choose the battlefield. Kane's voice was urgent. Stevens knows this base, but he doesn't know what we're planning if we plan it right now. We set a trap. Use Ashford as bait. Catch him and whoever he's working with. Miller looked at Kira. Specialist, this is your call. I won't order you to do this. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to hide, to call her mother and beg forgiveness for breaking her promise. But she thought about Martinez bleeding in the dirt, about Morrison dead before he knew what hit him, about all the soldiers who would die if Stevens kept feeding intelligence to the enemy. I'll do it, she said, but I want Cooper with me, and I want my father's rifle. Kane smiled. Now you're thinking like a sniper. They planned it in 90 minutes. A fake patrol route leaked through channels Stevens would be monitoring. Kira would be visible, exposed, apparently vulnerable. But Cooper would be in overwatch and the rest of Kane's team would be positioned in a perimeter, ready to collapse the trap when Stevens made his move. He'll bring Taliban fighters, Kane said, studying maps. At least a dozen, maybe more. They'll try to take you alive if possible, dead if necessary. How do you know they'll want me alive? Because you're worth more alive. They can parade you on video, use you for propaganda. A captured American ghost is worth more than a corpse. Kane marked positions on the map. We'll be here, here, and here. You see Stevens, you call it out, we move in. What if something goes wrong? Then you do what you did during the ambush. You survive. Cooper checked his rifle for the 100th time. I don't like this. Too many variables, too many ways it goes sideways. You have a better idea, Kane challenged. Yeah, we lock her in a bunker and wait for Stevens to give up. He won't give up. This is personal for him now. Whatever his reasons, he wants her dead. Kane looked at Tira. Last chance to back out. She thought about her promise to her mother. Thought about the 8 years she'd spent hiding who she was. Thought about the message on her phone. Your father died screaming. I'm not backing out. I'm done hiding. They moved out at 1700 hours, just as the sun started its descent. The fake patrol consisted of 2 Humvees, minimal personnel, deliberately vulnerable. Kira sat in the back of the lead vehicle, visible through the windows, her father's rifle across her lap. Cooper's voice crackled in her earpiece. I'm in position. I've got eyes on you. You're good. Copy that, Kira replied. Her hands were steady now. The fear was still there, but it had transformed into something sharper, more useful. Focus. The convoy moved slowly along the planned route, a narrow valley road with good ambush positions on both sides. Perfect for an attack. Exactly what they wanted. 30 minutes into the patrol, Cooper's voice came urgent. Movement on the ridge, multiple contacts, at least 15, maybe 20. They're setting up. Do you see Stevens? Negative, but they're Taliban, heavily armed, and they're focused on your vehicle. Kane's voice cut in. All units stand by. Let them commit. We need Stevens to show himself. Kira's heart hammered. She could see the ridge Cooper mentioned, could see slight movement, shadows that shouldn't be there. They were surrounded. Then her radio crackled with a new voice, a voice she knew. Kira, I know you can hear me. Stevens, speaking on their secure frequency. He had all their codes, all their channels. I just wanted you to know this isn't personal. Well, it is, but not the way you think. Stevens' voice was calm, almost friendly. You're worth $20,000 dead. That's enough to disappear, start a new life somewhere they'll never find me. Kane's voice in her other ear. Keep him talking. We're triangulating his position. Kira keyed her mic. Why Stevens? Why betray everyone? Betray that's rich coming from you. Your father killed my cousin in Kandahar. Drone strike, wrong house, 50 civilians dead, including half my family. You think your legendary dad was a hero? He was a murderer in a uniform. The words hit like bullets. Kira's breath caught. My father didn't. Your father did. And when I found out his daughter was on my base playing at being a soldier, I saw an opportunity. Justice, maybe, or revenge. Call it whatever you want. Stevens, this is Kane. Stand down. We can work this out. Stevens laughed. No, we can't, but I'll tell you what I can do. I can make this easy. Ashford steps out of the vehicle unarmed, hands up. She surrenders to my friends here. Everyone else drives away. No one else has to die. And if I don't, Kira asked, then all of you die. I've got 20 fighters on that ridge with RPGs, machine guns, and a burning hatred for American ghosts. Your call, Kira. Be a hero and save your team, or be a coward and let them all burn. Cooper's voice tight. I've got him. Far ridge behind the rocks at 10 o'clock. 600 meters. Can you take the shot? Negative. He's too well covered. I can't get an angle. Kira looked at the ridge through her scope, saw the position Cooper meant, saw the impossible shot that would require shooting through a gap no bigger than a dinner plate. I can make it, she said. Kira, no, it's too risky. But she was already moving, exiting the Humvee, taking position behind the hood. She settled her rifle, controlled, her breathing found that quiet place her father had taught her. She could see Stevens now barely, just a shadow behind rocks. But she knew exactly where he had to be, where logic and experience said a sniper would position himself. Kira, what are you doing? Kane's voice urgent. Get back in the vehicle. Trust me, she said. She thought about her father, about her mother, about the promise she'd broken, about the 8 years she'd spent being someone she wasn't. She thought about who she really was, who she'd always been. Then she squeezed the trigger. The bullet flew 600 meters in 1.2 seconds. It passed through the gap between two rocks, a space barely large enough, and hit Stevens in the chest. Kira saw him jerk backward, saw him fall. For a moment, everything stopped. The Taliban fighters on the ridge stood frozen, shocked, unable to believe what they'd just seen. Then Kane's voice roared, "Light them up!" The ambush became a slaughter. Kane's team, hidden in perfect positions, opened fire. The Taliban fighters caught in a crossfire never had a chance. Some tried to run, most died where they stood. It was over in 90 seconds. Cooper's voice in her ear awed. That was impossible. That shot was physically impossible. My father made impossible shots every day, Kira said quietly. He taught me well. They found Stevens on the ridge, still alive, but barely. Doc Henderson worked on him while Kane called for medevac. Stevens looked up at Kira, blood bubbling from his lips. Your father, he gasped, was a monster. My father was a soldier, like me. Kira knelt beside him. And you're wrong about one thing. This was always personal. Stevens died before the helicopter arrived. Back at base, Miller was waiting with news. The janitor gave us names. We've arrested 6 more local nationals working with Stevens. The leak is sealed. The bounty, Kira asked. With Stevens dead and his network dismantled, it's effectively meaningless. You're still a legend, but the immediate threat is neutralized. Kane clapped Kira on the shoulder. You did good today, specialist. Your father would be proud. Would he? Kira wasn't sure about anything anymore. That night, she finally called her mother, sat in the communications room with her phone staring at the number for 10 minutes before dialing. Her mother answered on the second ring. Kira, baby, is that Yukta? Hi, Mom. Oh, thank God. I've been so worried. I saw the news they're saying there's an American woman sniper in Afghanistan, and I thought, are you okay? Mom, I need to tell you something. Silence, then quietly. You broke your promise. I did. I'm sorry. People were dying, and I could save them, and I just... Kira, stop. Her mother's voice was firm. Listen to me. I made you promise something that wasn't fair. I was scared and broken, and I couldn't see past my own pain. But you're not me, and you're not your father. You're you. Kira felt tears streaming down her face. I thought you'd hate me. Hate you, baby. I could never hate you. I'm terrified for you, yes. I'm scared every single day. But I'm also proud, so proud. Your father would be too. Mom, no, let me finish. I've been seeing a therapist since you deployed, trying to deal with everything I never dealt with. And she helped me understand something. Your father didn't die because he was a soldier. He died because he was brave enough to protect people who needed protecting. And you're just like him. That's not a curse, Kira. It's a gift. Kira sobbed into the phone, 8 years of guilt and fear pouring out. I miss him so much. I know, baby. I do too. Every day. But he's still with you in every shot you make, in every life you save. He's still there. They talked for an hour. about the past, about the future, about who Kira was and who she was becoming. When they finally said goodbye, Kira felt lighter than she had in years. She walked out of the communications room to find Kane waiting in the hallway. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yeah, everything's okay." "Good, because Miller wants to see you in the morning. Something about a promotion and a transfer to the scout platoon." Kira smiled. "Tell him I'll think about it." "Will you?" "I don't know. Maybe. Ask me tomorrow." She walked back to her barracks, her father's rifle slung over her shoulder, feeling the weight of it differently now. Not as a burden, not as a promise broken, but as a legacy carried forward. The night was clear, the stars brilliant overhead. Somewhere in the mountains, enemies were plotting. Somewhere people needed protecting. And somewhere a young woman who'd spent 8 years hiding finally understood what her father had always known. Some gifts are too important to waste. Some promises are meant to be broken. And some legends once born can never be unmade. Kira Ashford was no longer just a communications specialist. She was Al-Shabaab, the phantom, the ghost, and she was done apologizing for it.